So today I'm going to speak to you about the future of medicine. And you may have seen this quote from William Gibson: "The future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed." And actually, I think this quote has become a bit of an excuse for talking about the present while claiming to talk about the future. Because obviously, talking about futuristic things which occur right now in the present is much, much easier than actually talking about the future. So for 2 years now, I've taught a course on technology and the future of medicine. And it has caused me to think that that phrase, the future of medicine, isn't quite as simple as it seems. That indeed one needs to define what you mean by the future and also what you mean by medicine. So many presentations about the future show modern day technology related to genomics, personalized medicine, apps on smartphones, and other things that exist right now that maybe give a taste of where the future is going. But if you think about the real future, actually diseases, most of them may be eliminated in the real future. And so what will physicians do? What will the healthcare system do if most diseases are gone, don't exist anymore? Well, I am arguing that we'll still have a tremendous amount to do, because medicine is also about human enhancement, not only physical enhancement, but also moral and spiritual. And there's an unending desire for human enhancement. That's at the individual level. And medicine is also about improvements in society to promote health and well-being. And there also, you'll never reach the limit of society's desire to improve those things that promote health. So I've begun to look upon medicine as something really big, and have been using a phrase that actually comes from Rudolf Virchow, 165 years ago, medicine writ large, to describe this much larger view of medicine. So our course about the future of medicine is not just about the future of narrow medicine as concerns diseases and therapies, but also the future of all of medicine, including human enhancement and improvements in society. As Virchow said 165 years ago when he was 27 years old, "Physicians are the natural attorneys of the poor, and the social problems should be largely solved by them." It's a mandate you may not think of very often, but I've been thinking about it a lot. Here's something else Virchow said that is where I came up with this idea, this phrase of medicine writ large. Medicine is a social science, and politics is nothing else than medicine writ large. Medicine as a social science, as the science of human beings, has the obligations to point out problems and to attempt their theoretical solution. The politician, the practical anthropologist, must find means to their practical solution. And the longer version of that quote I began with reads like this: "It is the curse of humanity that it learns to tolerate even the most horrible situations by habituation. Physicians are the natural attorneys of the poor, and the social problems should be largely solved by them." So this larger view of medicine then, at this meeting today on best of analytics, also means that the analytical side is much bigger. The big data of medicine is much bigger than you probably ever imagined. Analytics and big data in medicine are not just about diseases and treatments, but also, as I said, about human enhancement and improvements in society that promote health and well-being. If you put all that together, it's absolutely huge. And the statistics, the data, is absolutely enormous, probably a larger body of data than you can think of applying to any other field. Technology advances themselves are closely tied to the future of medicine, to robotics, to nanotechnology. In the course, we talk about artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and a lot of other things like that, quantum biology, that may not seem to you today like a part of medicine of right now, but they certainly are an important part of medicine of the future. In an optimistic view of the future of medicine, medicine is huge and much bigger than you ever imagined. Now think about analyzing things, think about analytics. YouTube, where our broadcast quality videos end up from the course, has extensive analytics capability, including audience retention. And this has given us very interesting statistics about every single lecture, not only the faculty lectures, but also the student lectures. Not only how many people look at them, but which parts of them get the most views, and how those views change over time. It's a very interesting way to sort of evaluate what the true impact is of what we're doing in the course. So it's another side of analytics, which is what this meeting is about. Teaching the course has brought many insights. This is the website for the course, singularitycourse.com, and many surprises. I'll be quite honest with you, it never occurred to me that we would end up with videos from the student presentations that outperformed the faculty videos. And this is enormously exciting to me. What does it mean? It means we have very good students, that they're working very hard on their presentations. They have excellent graphics, excellent presentation skills. As a matter of fact, in the past 30 days, the top 10 most popular videos from the course channel includes 3 student presentations. Vanessa Rogers' presentation is number 1, Nicholas Lee number 7, and Dorian Fenton number 9. And it's just one of many surprises that has come out of the detailed analytics of the statistics coming from our YouTube channel for the course. We're constantly inviting feedback and reinventing, re-examining, morphing the course. A course about the future cannot be static. It has to be constantly moving forward, constantly improving itself. And we use the YouTube statistics as well as a number of other means, such as anonymous feedback via SurveyMonkey, authored feedback where the students provide a critique of one particular lecture in the past, and viewership numbers of the broadcast quality videos. All those things provide different kinds of feedback, as do the likes on YouTube and the likes on Facebook. Michael Woodside's nanotechnology video has come as close to being viral as any we have produced from the course. It gets about 10 new views per day, and it's been going now for many, many months at that level. You can see all the videos at youtube.com/user/Kim Solez. But maybe what's most interesting to me is the audience retention peaks. Now, what do those peaks represent? They represent part of the video where people go back to watch it again and again. And so you would think that you'd get tiny peaks because most people would just watch the video at a certain point and stop. So it's really exciting to me when we get really big peaks late in the video, as in this quantum biology lecture by Jack Tazinski. At minute 1 hour, 8 minutes and 30 seconds, you get this enormous peak, almost up to 100% of the audience. And you can follow along and see what's happening in the video at that time. Well, what could possibly give that amount of audience interest? This is what he's saying at that time. It is a revisionist approach to biology. Probably all the textbooks will be rewritten by quantum physicists with every example from actin to microtubules to centrioles to neurons being rewritten as a quantum phenomenon. Of course, at the end, remember, classical physics was not thrown out. It's not garbage, it's still useful, but you have to keep it at a certain level. So classical physics is useful at the level of designing trains and looking at ping pong balls, but if you want to look at the fundamental nature of matter, you need to use quantum mechanics. The same with biology. You can still keep your cartoonist visions of how cells operate, but if you really want to understand how mitochondria work, how various enzymes operate, how recognition operates at the subcellular level, you have to go to quantum mechanics. I think no matter what your background is, you're going to find that inspiring. And you can understand why people would go back to that again and again. What else did they go back to again and again? This portion of Jonathan White's lecture about technology and the body, where he defines what the technological singularity is. The moment when technological change becomes so rapid and profound, it represents a rupture in the fabric of human history. So that's an audience retention peak in his lecture, as is the reference to this article. It's on my iPhone. Attitudes to the use of mobile computing devices in medical education, a mixed methods study. Also, his references to Ray Kurzweil's books are another peak, and to mind uploading, another peak in Jonathan White's lecture. As is the kind of inverted Maslow's pyramid and the idea of transcending to look at the distant future and what it will be like. The Roy Batty scene from Blade Runner, where he's about to turn himself off. This is another audience retention peak. This t-shirt about cloning. This is my clone. I'm actually somewhere else having a much better time. It's another audience retention peak. In Osmer Zayan's artificial intelligence lectures, this decision tree graphic is one peak. The robo-rat, the brain of a rat, brain cells from a rat that control a robot, that results in another peak. The science fiction view of the future. And life as perceived by a mouse, and the question of whether a mouse is intelligent or not, and how you define what is intelligence and how it affects one's experience in the world. So Shauna Pandya also has this description of the company that she founded, and the student presentations as a part of the workshop that she gave are a real audience retention peak. So people come back again and again to watch the individual student presentations within the workshop. Connectivity trends are also a peak, as is the flying car. A lot of people continue to complain that the flying car doesn't exist, but actually it does, and it's existed for some years. And it's become even more consumer-friendly this year, where you don't have to be a pilot. You can be an ordinary person and still drive flying car. Then the idea in Shauna Pandya's lecture to never feel limited by your age, your training, or station in life. Never assume that something you really want to do is completely unattainable for you. In Leslie Cormack, the Dean of Arts lecture, Her reference to Albertus Magnus' Book of Secrets was an audience retention peak. In Bibiana Kujek's talk about the singularity in resource-limited settings and her experiences in Nepal, this was a peak. You come for the mountains, you return for the people. In Heather Graves' talk about animal intelligence and writing, there were parts of the student question period that were real audience retention peaks. So those are absolute audience retention. There's also relative audience retention, how this particular video retains audience compared to all other videos of the same length. And that's maybe important with respect to my TED-Med video on medicine writ large. It's an 18-minute video. Most TED-Med videos are about 18 minutes. And so the relative audience retention, you can see that the audience retention is well above average for all the other YouTube 18-minute videos. And I'm very proud of that. It's because the competition is very fierce in that area. So coming back then to the central idea of the technological singularity, the merger of humans and machines, and the idea from that point forward, which may be at 2045, the year 2045, 32 years from now, that we'll only be able to understand what's going on in the world if we merge or cooperate with machines in some way. That they will from that point on control the agenda of the world. Now, is there any evidence that we're heading in that direction? Yes. In February 2011, two things happened. The Singularity was on the cover of Time magazine, and the computer Watson beat the top human contenders in the TV game show Jeopardy. And more recently, the iPad and iPhone manufacturer Foxconn in China has announced plans to replace 1 million workers with 1 million robots. This was announced in November 2012, and it has already replaced 100,000 workers. So this is something real. It's happening right now. And then for those of you that still read the funny papers, the technological singularity in all of its aspects, the word, the concept, everything about it, appeared in Dilbert at the end of March 2013. So it does look like this is really happening. And it's the main thing we talk about in the course. It's not the only thing. So we talk about the technological singularity. We talk about existential risks, artificial intelligence, genomics, nanotech, biotech. A post-scarcity world is possible. So we talk about dystopian outcomes, but we also talk about utopian outcomes. And we're not powerless to influence which way that goes. We are not just passive victims of the future. We can actually do things which will enhance a positive outcome for mankind and womankind. And I think that's maybe one of the most important objectives in the course, is to be able to do that. Ways to optimize a positive outcome in the coevolution of humans and machines, and then the influence of these considerations on medicine of the future. An important background of the course is the executive course I took in February, March 2010 at Singularity University in Silicon Valley. There, a very strong emphasis is on Moore's law, this exponential change of price performance of computing. There are many other things that show a similar exponential change. And it's very exciting to think that things are moving that rapidly. Are they moving exactly that rapidly in medicine? Well, probably not. There are inhibitory forces in medicine that mean that Moore's law is a bit muted. And some of them would be quite obvious, maybe to you. Regulatory oversight. It's almost completely focused on compliance. It discourages risk-taking and innovation. And a healthcare system that doesn't have the same financial reward system as the rest of society. Facebook isn't about to pay $1 billion for the latest hot ticket item in imaging or medical informatics. And in medicine, security always trumps information sharing. And so better, faster linkages are constrained because of security concerns, most of which are not valid, most of which are bogus. Now, how are we doing, and why aren't we doing better in disseminating these ideas? First of all, what should we shoot for? How many people should we be trying to reach? Well, let's just think about the general public that's interested in science. So the PBS NOVA program reaches 100 million viewers worldwide. The Big Bang Theory, the US TV show, which makes fun of those same ideas in science, reaches 16 million in the US alone and about 30 million worldwide. Ray Kurzweil's TED Talk about the technological Singularity reaches 1.2 million views. The Singularity Summit maxes out about 9,000 views per video. Videos from the course thus far max out at about 1,300 views. Our course on technology and the future of medicine, Lab MP 590. So is it just simply that we haven't tried hard enough? We just need to push harder to reach greater numbers? I don't think it's that simple. And actually, Dmitry Itskov, the billionaire supporter of the Global Futures 2045 meeting that has just been held and I just attended in New York City, suggests that there actually is active resistance to these ideas because of the lack of a spiritual component, a spiritual aspect. That human beings need this. They may not need religion per se, but they need something in the spiritual realm. They need reference to things of the spirit, to the advantages of delving into that realm. Our course on technology and the future of medicine has had that from the beginning. And there are certain areas that everybody seems to agree on. For instance, meditation, virtually every religion agrees that that's a good thing, and medicine also, in many studies, has demonstrated that meditation improves health. So his idea, Dmitry Itskov's idea, is that we should incorporate that more in meetings about the technological singularity and transhumanism. And here is one such presentation about spiritual matters from this just concluded Global Futures 2045 conference. Now, it's hard to get excited about something you cannot conceptualize at all what it would look or feel like. And I think actually Marcus Hutter has moved us along quite a ways in giving us an idea of what singularity would actually be like. And it makes it seem much more tangible and real. So the technological singularity is a very important part of the future of medicine, but up until now, you might hear a presentation about it and say, well, what is that? You know, what's it going to be like? Is it by definition not possible to say anything about what it's going to be like? So Marcus Hutter, a young AI researcher from Australia, has written a recent article called can intelligence explode? And in this, he speculates about what the singularity will look like and sound like. And what are the real risks? Is unfriendly artificial intelligence the real risk here? He suggests that the real risk is really human insignificance. When machines are much smarter than we are, will our desires and aspirations count for anything? Will anybody care what we want and what we think? And Hutter speculates that if you're not experiencing the singularity yourself, but are looking from the outside at a group that is experiencing it, what you will experience is white noise. That this tremendous amount of activity will result in white noise. If you're inside, you may not notice anything, because to you, the pace of whatever is going on will seem normal to you. But eventually, even if initially our biological brains count for something in our mental processes, very soon, the processing power of the machine implant will so vastly outstrip our biological brains that our biological brains will begin to become insignificant regardless of the friendliness or unfriendliness of the artificial intelligence. It's rather like when you walked to this room, you saw an ant or a grasshopper, you didn't feel particularly friendly or unfriendly toward it. You just didn't care. It didn't matter to your life what was going on with that particular being. And maybe that's the way machines will eventually feel about human beings when they're much smarter than we are. So one potential consequence of that is that we may be stuck in a dysphoric sort of eternal youth. Now, youth is very good in many ways, but it also has some downsides. A downside of feeling powerless and perhaps of extreme risk-taking when you feel insignificant, lack of impact on the world, lack of identity. So if we can re-establish ourselves, recreate ourselves from backups, then there's nothing to stop us from engaging in very risky behavior. And the world may not have much incentive to keep our identities straight. What does it matter if you began an idea and it originally carried your name, if a machine has improved and enhanced it 100, 1,000, 1,000,000-fold, perhaps your original contribution can no longer be seen, and so it's not particularly important to attach your name to the idea anymore. So there's a real question of whether human identity and the individualness of human beings will be as important in the future as it is now. This whole idea potentially of aimlessness, lack of sense of purpose. But this is just one potential outcome, and I think we could work on much more positive ones. So let's talk about medicine and disease. One could imagine a future where all disease was eliminated, but life was intolerable, perhaps because human beings were insignificant and what they wanted didn't matter. But there's another scenario where the only diseases are from bioterrorism, but there may be more of those diseases than our current diseases today. That could also be a terrible world. The challenge of friendly AI becomes just a small part of the much larger challenge of creating a friendly world in which humans still have lives of significance and in which human history is retained and extended. So, as I urge in the course, I would also like to urge this audience, let's do everything we can to maximize the possibility of a positive outcome, to assume that we can shape the future in positive ways, and let's set about doing it. We all need to be engaged in this to ensure a positive outcome for humanity, the future of medicine is ours to shape, and we need to get busy doing that. Thank you very much.